What's up, everyone? Today is December 28th of 2023, and the topic of today's video is the passing of Dixie Chicks founding member Laura Lynch at the age of 65. Now, on this channel, we talk about the language of numerology with a strong emphasis on the language of Gematria, which is the number lettering system that sits underneath our English alphabet. And when you look at this language alongside the calendar, you discover that there's a deep interconnectedness in our reality. And this story here is a perfect example of this, and let me explain why. My last video on this channel from December 22nd, which is linked in the description below, was this one about Colorado canceling Donald Trump from its election. And in the thumbnail for that video, you'll notice a couple of pro wrestlers, Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man, who was one half of the Twin Towers tag team. And in my video, I focused on how this whole thing in Colorado with Donald Trump, which happened just one day before Hulk Hogan got baptized, this riddle was actually connected to the mock sacrifice of the Big Boss Man in 1999 at WrestleMania 15, which was a lynching from a Hell in a Cell. And, you know, I've searched my channel. I can't find any other videos I've done where the main topic is a lynching. It's not something I really talk about ever on this channel. But just a couple hours after I finished this video, that's when this car crash featuring Dixie Chicks founding member Laura Lynch happened. And as a result of the accident, she's passed away at the age of 65. So in this video, we're going to talk about the numerology that connects Laura Lynch to the Big Boss Man, but also a couple of other characters. The name Laura Lynch and, you know, this ongoing riddle with the federal government. Remember in that video, I also talked about how the Boss Man was connected to September 11th and January 6th. Well, think about the name Laura Lynch and how similar it is to Loretta Lynch, the first black female U.S. Attorney General who served under Barack Obama's administration. And then we're also going to connect this to another country singer, as the Dixie Chicks, now known as the Chicks, are a country music band. In 2022, country singer Loretta Lynn, probably the most decorated country musician, female artist in the history of the genre, passed away at the age of 90. And she died on October 4th, which is interesting because Laura Lynn died 1 month and 4 days. Or I'm sorry, Laura Lynch. I'm going to mess those names up at least one more time during this video, since they're all so similar. But Laura Lynch died 1 month and 4 days after her birthday. And this was a big number of focus when I was talking about the Big Boss Man, because it was the 14th Amendment that was exercised in order to take Trump off of the ballot in Colorado. And, you know, I have several posts on this. I can't remember which one it is, but this was all 1,004 weeks after the death of the Big Boss Man. And again, the video is linked down below. You'll see here. Trump was removed with the 14th Amendment 1,004 weeks after the death of the Boss Man. Loretta Lynn dead on 10/4. Laura Lynch dead 1 month, 4 days after her November 18th birthday, as it's listed in most outlets. This car crash occurred in the city of El Paso. And notice in the language of Gematria, in our two extended methods, these ciphers use the numerical structure identical to ancient Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsephy. We start with the standard alphabetic order, which uses the current English alphabet, but also this Latin cipher, or Agrippa's key, which uses the classical Latin alphabetic order with more modern characters at the end. And I always tell you guys in every video, this is the most significant one. Well, here we see that car crash and El Paso both sum to 266. And this car crash, killing a founding member of the Chicks. And notice how the Chicks were first formed in the city of Dallas, Texas. They're in Dallas, right? Well, the Big Boss Man died in the city of Dallas, Georgia. And this is just one of a wealth of connections that these two characters have. In fact, notice how the Dixie Chicks has matching gematria in multiple ciphers with Ray Washington Traylor, the boss man's full name. More on this as we go. Now, the big riddle connecting the boss man to January 6th. Consider how the big boss man played a corrections officer from Cobb County, Georgia. And, of course, January 6th, an incident with Trump supporters clashing with the police. And similar to 9/11, where a lot of police officers died in the collapse of the towers. Well, if you measure from the death of the boss man, whose name sums to 106, just like that January 6th date, to January 6th, you get 16 years and 106 days. Laura Lynch, meanwhile, died 16 days before January 6th. And she was killed in El Paso, Texas, a city with gematria of 160 in reverse. Laura Lynch's birthday even has primary numerology of 106, 11 plus 18 plus 19 plus 58, a sum of 106. This date also has a life lesson number of 52, this being the second number on the date calculator that we see. And 52 also connects to Bossman, who was born on May 2nd, or 5-2. Talked a lot about that number in the last video. His full name, with the junior included, sums to 1081 in Satanic Gematria. Satanic Gematria, a fairly significant cipher, centered around the number 666, of course. And wouldn't you know that Laura Lynch died 1,081 days after the January 6th incident in Washington, D.C. His real name, Ray Traylor Jr., also summing to 181 in ordinal. So I can't tell you enough how obscure this connection may seem on the surface, but the fact that I made this video several hours before Laura Lynch died should clue you guys in that this gematria business is real, and it speaks to, like I said, a greater connectivity between us on this planet. Now, the death of Big Boss Man was also connected to the Skull and Bones Code, and a perfect example of this was his hanging at WrestleMania, which was on a date that perfectly matches Skull and Bones in gematria. His tag team partner with the Twin Towers wore the skull and crossbones, and even the boss man has this image that circulates of him wearing the skull and crossbones. So, again, something we've been talking about all year. Well, Skull and Bones sums to 1212 in reverse Sumerian. And not only does Ray Traylor equal 1212 in Latin, but his full name also is 1212 in the Fibonacci cipher of gematria. The January 6th incident occurred during Brown lunation number 1212. Just strengthening this connection. Now, 1212 in gematria is the letter L. LL is 1212. And here we're going to talk about the death of Laura Lynch, initials LL, connected to Loretta Lynch, LL, and another country musician, Loretta Lynn, more LL. When Laura Lynch died, the Big Boss Man would have been 22,149 days old. Why is that interesting? Well, in gematria, Skull and Bones equals 202 and 149. So you get the same 5 digits in this connection. Of course, the main Skull and Bones number is 223. This has been a prime number of focus all year in the year 2023, the year that Yale University, home to Order 322, turned 322 years old. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. Laura Lynch's November 18th birthday, as it's been most widely reported, is the 322nd day of the year. This date also leaves 43 days on the calendar, and that's interesting because 43 is the number that Laura Lynch shares with Bossman in Gematria. And of course, this was another number we discussed in my last video because when the 14th Amendment was enacted in Colorado, it was passed by a 4-3 vote. And now here we are in El Paso, Texas, which abbreviates to 104, where Laura Lynch died. Again, she was 1 month and 4 days after her birthday. This was also 1,004 weeks after the boss man died. And what about Loretta Lynch, who used to work out there in Washington, D.C., the site of January 6th, and, of course, a site of 9/11? Loretta Lynch has primary birth numerology of 104. But not only did Laura Lynch die 1,004 weeks after the Big Boss Man, but this was also exactly 19 years and 3 months. Well, in the language of Gematria, Dixie Chicks has Gematria of both 104 and 193. Dixie Chicks also equals 770 in standard Gematria, the extended method we showed earlier. 77, a lot like the numerology of the date she died. Her name also sums to the 137th prime number. The Dixie Chicks and El Paso, Texas, both 137. 137, the 33rd prime number. We talked about that with the Boss Man 303. And there's a lot more overlap here with Gematria. Boss Man 83 and 38, the Dixie Chicks 83, El Paso, Texas 38, and among more. Boss Man also died at the age of 41. That's the Gematria of the Chicks. And Laura, a founding member of the Chicks, also dead on a 41 date. Remember, 9/11 also on that 41 date back in 2001. And of course, in 2001, for the 9/11 attacks, the Big Boss Man was 2,001 weeks old. So we'll expand on this age in a little bit, but you know, I hate talking about this because I don't want to make it sound like I have superpowers or that I'm doing anything super incredible here, but you know, no one can really say I don't predict anything when I point connections out like this. You know, I didn't predict anything would happen in connection to this, but I made a video about a lynching before Laura Lynch died on the same day. So pretty bizarre stuff that we're looking at. No question about it. So let's do a deep dive into the numbers here and explain to you guys how this is, furthermore, a riddle connected to U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who was the 83rd U.S. Attorney General. Of course, connecting to the Boss Man. And country singer Loretta Lynn, who passed away last year. Now, I mentioned in my last video that insurrection has this Gematria value of 1414, which is interesting considering that the 14th Amendment is being used as an excuse to keep Trump off the ballot for his role in the insurrection attempt. A really poor insurrection attempt, I might add. Probably because it wasn't, but moving on. The country singer Loretta Lynn was born exactly 1,414 weeks before Loretta Lynch. Laura Lynch died a span of 1 year and 80 days after Loretta Lynn. 180. Now, why is that interesting? Well, we're going to crack open Sumerian Gematria here and show you. This Sumerian cipher is just the alphabetic order times 6. So anything with 180 Gematria here will also sum to 1,080 here. So not only was this a span of 1 year and 80 days after Loretta Lynn died, I told you guys I'd mess these names up, But it was also 1,080 days after January 6th. And again, Attorney General, both 180 and 1,080. If you instead write out United States Attorney General, you get 337. And wow, you also get 2022, which is the year that Loretta Lynn died. But that aside, 337 in ordinal. Well, on the date that Laura Lynch died, Loretta Lynch was 3,370 weeks old. Just one day earlier, that was her age. And think about how these are virtually the same digits, almost, as Ray Washington Traylor Jr., Loretta Elizabeth Lynch, and the World Trade Center. See how these all share the same digits, 3137 to 1337. And then the name Loretta Elizabeth Lynch has matching Latin gematria, 1477 with World Trade Center. In ordinal, World Trade Center equals 185, which is pretty interesting because Laura Lynch was born exactly 185 days before Loretta Lynch. When Loretta Lynn died, she was 1,085 months old. The World Trade Center is also called the Twin Towers. And of course, the boss man was a member of a tag team called the Twin Towers. So by no means is this connection a stretch. Well, the Big Boss Man was born a span of 166 days after Laura Lynch's birthday. And if you look at the 166th prime number, it's 983, which is the gematria that Ray Washington Traylor shares with the Dixie Chicks. Of course, Jesus mentioned 983 times in the New Testament, so a biblical number of sorts. But check out how the name Loretta Lynch, our former AG, also has matching gematria with Ray Traylor. Now, I pointed out the 1212 connection with January 6th. That was the lunation number it happened during. Ray Traylor with double 1212 gematria. LL initials 1212. Well, isn't it interesting that when Loretta Lynch left office in 2017, when Donald Trump took over, that was 12 years and 120 days after the death of the Big Boss Man. So as I pointed out, this is all a riddle connected to the lynching of the Big Boss Man, which was done in front of millions of people on pay-per-view, really at the peak of WWF's popularity during the Attitude Era. On the date that Ray Washington Traylor Jr. was mock sacrificed, it was 311 days after Loretta's birthday. And that's the ordinal value of Traylor's full name. Traylor would then go on to die 3 years, 11 days after the September 11th attacks. Now we get the death of Laura Lynch, who died 3 months and 11 days after 9/11. And this is a number coded into the current U.S. Attorney General, Merrick Garland, serving under Joe Biden. Check out how he took office on March 11th, 3/11. And if you measure from this date to the death of Laura Lynch, you get 33 months and 11 days. Now, 311 is another prime number. The 64th prime. Ray Traylor Jr. and the Twin Towers both equal 64. And Loretta Lynch, well, wouldn't you know, she happens to be 64 years old for all of these events. Loretta was 215 days after her birthday when Laura Lynch died. And this is another huge part of this riddle. 215. In a cipher that uses capital letters, called capitals added, this method adds 26 for every capital letter in the phrase. The Dixie Chicks and El Paso, Texas both sum to 215. Loretta Lynch became the United States Attorney General in the year 2015. And look at how that connects to her birthday, the 21st of May, 21/5. On the date of the 9/11 attacks, Big Boss Man was 2001 weeks and 5 days old. Again, he was a member of the Twin Towers. Well, now, when Laura Lynch died on the 22nd, he would have been 22,150 days old. So more 215 here with the Boss Man. Notice how Boss Man has matching 83 Gematria with Collapse and the Dixie Chicks. Loretta Lynch became the 83rd United States Attorney General less than 2 weeks after Loretta Lynn turned 83 years old. And now the current United States Attorney General, Merrick Garland, he's the 86th Attorney General. And in the alphabetic order, the Chicks sums to 86. To close this video out, I just want to show a couple more solid connections with Loretta Lynn and the World Trade Center because it's just wild. Now, for enthusiast members and up on my website, you also get access to these planetary counts, particularly the lunar phase and lunar orbit counts. Now, when Loretta Lynch became the Attorney General, notice how Loretta Lynn was on an even lunar count for both synodic and sidereal months. First of all, she was 1,027 lunations old. And remember, on 9/11, buildings 1, 2, and 7 were brought down. In Sumerian Gematria, World Trade Center sums to 1,110. And Loretta Lynn was also exactly 1,110 sidereal months old on that date. Of course, 9/11 also on the date leaving 111 days in the year, occurring primarily in New York, which has the 111. Now check this out. When Loretta Lynn died in 2022, she was exactly 1,119 lunar phases old. Now remember, this is the death of a 90-year-old woman we're talking about, so this isn't a case of murder by numbers. This appears to be the powerful matrix at work again. So she's an even number, 1119, a lot like 9/11. Well, when Laura Lynch died, Loretta Lynn would have been 1,100 months and 9 days old. Another 119. And notice how 9/11 is, of course, a prime number. Prime number 156. Well, in the alphabetic order, Loretta Lynn sums to 156. Notice how she actually has a super match with the number 33. 156, 141, and 60. And when Loretta Lynn died, Laura Lynch was exactly 3,333 weeks old. And then Laura Lynch died 444 days later. Well, the 444th prime number is 3119. And this is another significant number to the World Trade Center, which was bombed 3,119 days before it was destroyed on September 11th. 3119 from the 93 World Trade Center bombing to the 9/11 attacks. 3119, the 444th prime number. When the Big Boss Man was born, Loretta Lynn was 31 years and 19 days old. And then she died 156 days after his birthday. Furthermore, Bossman was also born when Loretta was exactly 1,620 weeks old, and then he died a span of 162 days after her birthday. They also died exactly 223 lunar phases apart. And of course, 223 lunations, well, that's a super significant number because there's 223 lunations between each eclipse of the same Saros series. So again, guys, I don't know who's writing this script with all these characters that seem to have very little to do with each other, but are connected through symbolism, through gematria, through similar sounding names even. But this just seems to be how it works. Loretta Lynn even born on April 14th. And I point this out because 14/4 is like 144, which is the 12th Fibonacci and the 12th square number. How perfect for someone with 1212 initials. So certainly a lot has been unpacked with this decode, but just trying to exhibit the deeper connections in reality between strong figures in the public consciousness. All right, everyone, that'll do it for this video. Be going live again pretty soon. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.